Hello friends, good morning and welcome to the EduSat Network. Our topic of discussion today shall be the classics of American literature, wherein we give special focus to drama. And friends, this is part of an ongoing series on American literature. So a series of lectures are also uploaded on YouTube and you could watch that. And also, just to inform you, we are also celebrating at CEC Consortium for Educational Communication our digital week. So we are going to be updating you about our newest activities and the newest courses we are looking at. And so friends, with this information, I would like to now take us back to the lecture and introduce and welcome our subject expert. And we have with us in our studio our subject expert, Dr. Bhim Singh Deya. He is a retired professor of English and a former Vice Chancellor, Kurukshetra University. He has taught English for more than 4 decades. And with this introduction, sir, thank you for coming to our studio. Welcome.
Thank you. Well, today we are going to talk about classics of American drama, just as we did classics of American poetry. We shall take up 4 plays which have been landmarks in American drama, beginning with Royal Tyler's The Contrast. Tyler, in fact, is a deviation or a sort of, you say, a change in the regular pronunciation. In England, they will call it Taylor, but in the American context, it becomes Tyler. And literature, as you know, is rooted in life. Drama, more than poetry and fiction or any other form of literature, is more close to people's life than any other form of literature, because it is staged, because it is heard and enjoyed by the people. Obviously, it has to be close to their own life. Otherwise, they wouldn't be bothered about watching it. So the first American drama, which was comedy, this came out in 1787 by Royal Tyler. The title was The Contrast. Here it is important to know the historical context. You know, America became independent in 1776. So as a new nation, they had a new sentiment, a very strong one of patriotism. So it was very natural for the Americans to make a comparison between England that ruled American colonies, the 52 states, disunited before 1776 and then united into a new nation. So in the early years of independence, it was very natural that they will always carry the comparison in mind, what was and what is. And English being the rulers and being civilizationally more developed, they were considered more cultured, more sophisticated, and America was comparatively a primitive society. You had rural settings, you had people not very sophisticated or cultured. So the obvious difference between the urban and the rural cultures. And this is precisely what you have in The Contrast display. What you have here is, there is an American cad, C-A-D, a fashionable young man who falls in love or pretends to be in love with an American girl. So American girl is simple, rural folk, and he is an urbanized cad. Simultaneously, when he is making love to this girl, he is also negotiating another woman, not for marriage, but for some sort of companionship. So he would have a mistress, he would have a wife, that kind of fellow, and deceiving both at the same time. So this is what the play is about, showing the simplicity, the naturalness, the primitive nature of the American people, and the sophistication, falsification of naturalness among the British, who are more urbanized, more civilized, so to say, but less human, more deceptive, not simple and natural like the Americans are. So it is this contrast which Tyler has made out in this comedy. Obviously, there is a strong sentiment of patriotism here, because it's a new nation, they have got freedom newly, and therefore the sentiment for the nation is very strong. So it's a patriotic play, so to say, although a comedy, because at the end everything is smoothed out, but then in between there are these problems to bring out the contrast. So this was the first play, showing patriotism of the new people of America. The next play that is important, is a sort of classic in its own right, is Hearts of Oak. Hearts of Oak, O-A-K. You know oak tree. This is strongest among the trees, hardest wood. So hearts made of hard wood means less sentimental, less emotional, and less moral also. That's why they are hard, morally hard too. This came out in 1879, almost a century after Tyler's play. And this was by James Herney, H-E-R-N-E, Herney. James Herney, 1879. Now here, instead of patriotism, we have sentimentalism, because the play is focused on a domestic problem. Husband and wife and daughter. You see, like King Lear, the husband has grown old, blind, and is dying. So much so that his wife considers him dead, and therefore gets a memorial erected in the church there. And at the same time, a very young daughter of theirs, she is talking to this blind old man without knowing that he is her father. And it is such a sentimental situation. Simultaneously, the wife of the man, thinking that the man is dead, she is having another marriage in the neighboring church. So, ceremony of the new marriage and death of the earlier husband simultaneously going on in the neighboring churches. So, it's a very sentimental, very moving play. As the historians of American literature report, when it was staged, and it was staged for years, for a very long time, they say thousands of people used to weep when this scene would come, the blind old man and a young daughter talking to him knowing not that the old man is her father. So you are reminded of King Lear. Remember the
Yes.
similar situation. King Lear, in his last scene, the same situation, very pathetic. So here again it is very pathetic. So we call it sentimental drama. That was patriotism at the center. Here it is sentimentalism at the center, a domestic tragedy. There it was a patriotic comedy. Well, that brings us to the next play. This is around the same time, 1878. That was 1879. This is titled The Banker's Daughter. The Banker's Daughter by Bronson Howard. BRONSON Howard. Bronson Howard. Well, here we have the phase of realism, from patriotism to sentimentalism to realism. This also means that American drama is now maturing. It started as a naive sort of experiment, and then it went into sentimentalism. But then it comes of age with this, The Banker's Daughter play. And here you find characters are more realistic, situations are more realistic. And meanwhile, 100 years after independence, developments have taken place socially, economically, culturally. So we no longer have the same America which was at the time of independence. So some urbanization has taken place, some sophistication has taken place in culture also. And that is why banker, you have no talk about bankers in the earlier plays, but now you have bankers. That also is a class which has emerged with the developments that have taken place. And therefore money becomes a very important factor, even for marriage. So what this banker's daughter, her father, does is that for money's sake, he marries her to another man, although she was already in love with someone and they had gone into some sort of marriage. But then, because of money, the father is tempted by the richness of another young man, so he marries her off there. And obviously the complications had to begin because the girl didn't like that boy. So it is this tension of a growing nation, of a developing nation, which is gaining economically, but which is losing morally. It is losing the values. It is losing the sentiments. Even in personal relations of husband and wife, father and daughter, things are being decided not by morality but by monetary considerations. So it is a new America now after 1 century. And this play became very popular again because it depicted a real situation, as Shakespeare says in Hamlet, showing mirror up to nature. So here is a play which shows mirror up to America, as America was at the end of the 19th century. So the importance of the play lies because of this. Another see, that brings us to the 20th century. And in fact, American drama, which is read today, is only this drama, 20th century. 18th and 19th century drama is, looked up only for historical reasons. If somebody is writing a history or is interested in knowing the history, or has a syllabus covering the history, would care to read those plays, not otherwise.
Right.
But the 20th century American drama brings on the scene some very important playwrights. And one of the earliest, you must have read him, was Eugene O'Neill. O'Neill was the first American dramatist who made a name in the Western world, entire Europe and so on. And his plays, the American plays, for the first time came to be staged in Europe, which was not the case earlier. Earlier it was a local affair because they wouldn't think much of the American literature as a whole, particularly American drama. But now with Eugene O'Neill, American drama achieved a certain status. And it used to be compared with the other dramatists of the West. One reason was that O'Neill was born in a theatre. His father himself was a great actor. So right from childhood, he had the background of theatre and drama. And then he was well read in the European drama and theatre, what the French were experimenting in, what the Germans were doing. So he was aware of all that. And he absorbed all those new trends. For example, this play. Here he experiments with the new technique which was prevalent in Europe at the time, the technique of expressionism, which came up in reaction to realism. You remember in the later 19th century, there was the dominance of realism and naturalism in drama as well as fiction. You remember Ibsen, Steinberg, Ionesco. You see, these were the playwrights of the later 19th century in Europe who experimented with realism and naturalism. And they, in a way, transferred real life on stage. So much so that they will create a drawing room with the same table, chair, so on and so forth. So illusion of reality they were creating. But now there was a reaction against it. They said there is a difference between literature and life. If you were to show life once again, then why not see life itself? You don't need to go to theatre to know about life. You are living it, you are seeing it every day, therefore it has to be different. Yes. To involve people, you have to use all sorts of technique to capture people's attention, their emotion and so on. Absolutely. Involve them intensely. So intensification of realism becomes expressionism. This is what the new theatre was doing in the early 20th century, 1920s in particular. So expressionism was intensification of the real, as I said. And therefore, present things, not, past, present and future, linear, not linear time. And that is why in expressionism, there is simultaneity of time. Time past, time present, time, future, they exist simultaneously. And you have a character involved in a scene in the present time, but at the same time recalling something from the past. And quite often you don't really know whether the character is in the past or is in the present, because there is overlapping of what is being recalled and what is being gone through. So it was this sort of experiment which they made, and it made a success because it involved the audience in trying to know. You can't afford to be inattentive, indifferent. You have to be very attentive to know what is happening. In real life, you could be indifferent because things go on in a routine manner. But here it is not routine. You have to understand the technique. What is being done here? Is it the past memory being shown, or is it the present event being displayed? So this was Expressionism. And in America, Eugene O'Neill was the first to adopt this technique of Expressionism. That's why the characters are not real. Characters are more symbolic. For example, the hero, the hairy ape, he is a black man, a worker, and he's working on a ship, and he thinks the world moves because of him, because it is his physical force which moves the ship, and it is the ship which moves the society and the civilization. So he has this misgiving about himself. But when the ship goes to the port and he gets off it and goes in New York on the Fifth Avenue, famous, and there he is not even accepted as a human being. Everybody thinks he is a gorilla. How come he is walking on the streets of New York and he is pushed aside and thrown out of the road? And when he reacts, hits back, he is caught by the police, imprisoned, and thrown into the prison with the animals, with the gorilla. Then he had a fight with the gorilla. And then he sees himself. He says, he comes to see the reality. He says, my God, I am not even a human. What is my identity? So the real theme of the play is the identity. What is a man? Where lies your manhood? Where lies your identity? How are you taken by other people? So he comes to realize this, that there isn't really much difference between you and the animals. You are just like one of them. The only difference is the so-called civilization. We have better clothes and education and so on and so forth. So eye-opening, shocking experience of knowing yourself. That is why right from ancient times, you remember Socrates, the Greek philosophers, after him Plato and Aristotle, their main slogan was, know thyself. So here the hairy ape, he comes to know himself, but through a very difficult experience, a very difficult situation. So this is halfway journey of the American drama, from patriotism to sentimentalism to realism to expressionism. And here, as I said, American drama comes of age. And now that distance which existed between the European drama and the American drama, now that is eliminated. That is covered now. And they are at par with the European drama. And there is greater mixing between the two. So much so that now Western drama, Western theatre is considered one. So there is assimilation of American drama now in the Western drama. The French, the British, the German, see, all put together now. So American becomes one of the components of Western drama. Earlier it wasn't, because it was not being accepted. It had not made the grade, it had not qualified to be included in the sophisticated, technically sophisticated theatre of Europe. But now it comes at par with European drama, technically also. And in terms of culture, outlook, America, in fact, after World War I, it became a force. And after World War II, the dominant one ruling the world. So literature also, as Foucault would say, power and knowledge are closely allied with each other. So American literature gets the status as America grows in power.
Right.
More and more it becomes powerful as a country, as a nation, as a political entity. So does the American literature.
Right.
I think we better stop here, or do we continue?
As per your wish, sir, or I could pose questions.
I could do another.
Yes, perhaps one more.
I think let's do another. That's by Thornton Wilder. That also is a very important play. Thornton Wilder, he comes in the 40s. After Eugene O'Neill, what is done here? For The Skin of Our Teeth, 1942. Thornton, Thornton, Thornton. Wilder, Wilder. Some will say Wilder also.
Right.
So it's very difficult, because in America itself there are different pronunciations in different parts of America. So much so that someone from the south and someone from the extreme north are very difficult that they will communicate with each other.
Absolutely.
Hard to follow the southern accent. The Skin of Our Teeth is an interesting play. This is a larger theme. Just like the hairy ape, in a way, also has a larger theme. What is man? What is his identity? So it is not just about an American. It is not about any local theme. It is about a universal theme, about human race as such. Similarly, the Skin of Our Teeth is again about the human race. Wilder is trying to explore the real force that keeps humanity going. What is it? And he discovers through this play's plot structure that it is the instinct for survival that keeps the human race going. And perhaps it is stronger than uh, the instinct in any other species. Of course, every species has this instinct, self-preservation. Even a mosquito or even an ant, each species has that instinct. But then man has been dominating all these species. Why? Because it has that instinct much stronger than any other. That's why Wilder says humanity can survive even by the skin of their teeth. Well, the skin of teeth is considered to be the most delicate part of your body. So even by that, if nothing else helps, human race can survive even by the most delicate part of your body. So that is what the play is about. Again, a large theme. Again, using even beyond expressionism. Here he is using the technique of symbolism. Everything is represented through symbols. Nothing is real. Nothing is natural. Because you have to communicate an idea, a viewpoint, something which is abstract, something which is not a real life or real situation or real character. Obviously then you have to symbolize. You have to find an appropriate symbol for each idea or emotion you want to communicate. So now came, after expressionism, the technique of symbolism. In the 1940s, in Europe as well as in America, you find in theater, not only in theater, in fiction also. You remember after Virginia Woolf and so on, you find symbolism taking over, you see, other techniques in fiction also. Then you have Camus and so on. Now they will then go into the absurd. The next step from symbolism will be the absurd,
Theatre of the absurd,
which comes in the 50s then.
Yes.
So that is the halfway story of American drama. We'll take the later half.
In the next lecture.
Yeah, contemporary.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, sir, again for tracing this trajectory for us halfway, which of course we shall take up in our lecture that follows tomorrow. And sir, with this regard, I wanted to also talk to you about this trajectory that we have been talking about, and we started by taking the example of a comedy by Royal Tyler, and he writes with the sentiment of patriotism, if I understood correctly.
Yes.
And that moved on to us talking about a play which deals with sentimentalism or the lack of emotions, The Hearts of Oak.
Yes.
And then we talked about a play that deals with the realism, The Banker's Daughter. And then we talked about expressionism, symbolism, and you also sort of just touched upon absurdism. So there seems to be a really clear movement, and do we at one sense feel that there's an intermingling at a certain point, or they're all separate watertight compartments in terms of these categories?
No, you are right. There always is an intermixing. In life as well as literature, nothing grows abruptly. Even culture, you see, of any community, of any group of people, it takes centuries, ages, and one thing leading to another. So you cannot really separate one from the other.
Exactly.
Because they are organically interlinked. Similarly, in literature, one thing leads to another, and you can't really draw a line, or you can't separate one movement from the other, because one grows out of the other, and so on and so forth. So it becomes a chain of experiments, chain of structures, styles, and obviously there has to be intermixing, intermingling, and no one thing is entirely by itself or pure. It will have a mix of allied techniques, allied sentiments, so on and so forth.
Absolutely, sir. Like you said, there has to be an intermingling, and one might overflow into the other. For instance, a play dealing with expressionism would perhaps have an element of realism or symbolism at a certain level.
Yes.
And sir, as we talked about the comedy which Royal Tyler wrote, that we talked about a comparison in mind within the mind of the author, that comparison between an America that is not so cultured at that point of time, and that is perhaps looked down upon, and there's an element of simplicity, naturalness, and there's a certain falsification of the British people that is depicted. So can we say that it is the kind of resentment for British people that is also coming out in this play?
Yeah, of course, because there is a political angle also to the play.
Right.
That's why the sentiment of patriotism is so strong. At the same time, there is a universal appeal of the theme. Now, I take you back to the Elizabethan age, 16th century drama, Shakespeare. You see, all Shakespeare's comedies play upon this contrast between the rural and the urban.
Yes.
You have both sets of characters and they are brought face to face with each other.
Absolutely.
And out of that confrontation emerges the comedy. Comedy between the simple and the sophisticated,
Right.
the natural and the urbanized, so on and so forth. So this has been one of the perennial popular themes of literature in all ages. You read even Sophocles over 2000 years ago, a Greek drama. Even there you find this playing upon the contrast between the rural and the urban. So one of the popular universal themes of literature.
Absolutely.
So,
And as you talked about, say the resolution, of course, it's a comedy, then it has to be plain where everything is settled and there is no resentments at all. But again, when we talk about other plays which don't have a happy or a peaceful ending, where we can take the example of Hearts of Oak, and it sort of depicts that people's hearts are not so soft, they're lacking emotion, less moral. So is this also reflective of the American society, that just in Tyler's work is showed as very simple and natural, and again at the same time we get to know in 1879 through this play that people were not as emotional or moral, and what could this have been depicting?
well, this is the process of civilizational evolution. And every nation, every community, every society goes through this process of evolution. This is ongoing.
Yes.
It's never ending. Just as Darwin discovered through his experiments that this process of evolution is ongoing, and civilization keeps evolving itself from the simple to the more complex, so on and so forth. But then there is an end to evolution also. That's why civilizations have come and gone. Greek civilization ended, our own Sanskrit civilization ended, Roman civilization ended.
Yes.
So civilizations also come and go, but then it goes on, life goes on.
Absolutely.
So it's similarly in literature. Literature goes on.
Absolutely.
Experiments keep coming, new forms keep coming, But then literature will go on and it will remain allied to life.
Absolutely.
So you cannot really separate
It
these
is-
two. That is why history becomes very important in the study of literature.
Right.
Aristotle,
absolutely.
you would recall, emphasized that literature is allied to or dependent upon history and philosophy.
Right.
Philosophy deals with general ideas, history deals with particular life of a people. And both combined will make literature.
Right.
But that is why literature is universal, literature is for all times, because it deals with general sentiments, emotions, ideas. And history only particular. That's why it is dated.
Yes, well
Literature
stated.
is not dated.
Right. And so just connected to that, you had also mentioned that 18th and 19th century drama looked up, they were read or looked up only for historical reasons to say trace the history or trying to find out what events happened in the history, but it's different with the 20th century drama, which again then tries to bring out the traditions of expressionism and symbolism, and then of course we shall talk about the absurd theatre tomorrow.
Well, as I said, this evolution involves a continuous change in the life of every nation, in the life of every people. So since America was a new nation in the 18th century, so sentiment of patriotism was very strong. But as you grow, it becomes something of the past, history. It belongs
Yes.
to history now.
Right.
So you have evolved into a new society, so new problems, new experiences, obviously literature will change accordingly.
Absolutely, sir. And again, then with 20th century drama, you took the example of Eugene O'Neill as a representative poet, and with his writings, American drama achieved a considerable status, which perhaps was not there earlier, and it was also because he was able to bring in the new traditions, also borrowing from European drama.
Exactly. You see, in this process of evolution, as you know, there is a greater, mixing up, intermixing of nations, of cultures, of literatures, and that is why we talk of globalization today, because that process has reached the peak, more or less, where the world has become just one,
Absolutely.
and it is hard to know which thing comes from where, from which nation. All kinds of fashions, all kinds of, trends. Overnight, you find them being adopted by people all over the world without often knowing where does it come from.
Absolutely.
So that happened with literature also. In the 20th century, there became greater mixing and they came closer, no longer national boundaries. Nationalism was the strongest sentiment and political consideration in the 19th century.
Right.
Just as science develops, you find the concept of nationalism weakening, and science, because bringing the world together by air traffic, by railroads, so on and so forth, it has invented so much that it has brought all nations together, making
Right.
the world one.
Absolutely, sir. And very interestingly, friends, we've also learned that through this whole process and these ideas we've been talking about, that American drama has matured through the transition and through these 100 years after its independence, and situations seem more realistic as opposed to perhaps artificial, or perhaps is a not so much grievance anymore.
Yes.
So we can say that, sir.
Sure. Yeah.
Right.
It has. So, like everything else, American drama now is a part of the Western. Now the world came to be divided in the 20th century, in two blocks, West and East. Not East exactly, Eastern Europe, Russia and America, two poles,
Yes.
North and South, like those poles. And literature also came to be divided for a period. It is no longer. Now that division is overcome. But for at least 50, 60 years, it was a strong division.
Absolutely.
Eastern Europe writing one kind of literature, driven by and dominated by the Marxist ideas, whereas the Western literature dominated by America and Western liberalism, liberal economy also. So there you find anti-Marx literature. So this division continued. Now that also is ended
Absolutely.
because USSR is no longer there.
Yes.
Therefore, neoliberalism is ruling the whole world. So whole world has become one again.
Right. Again, friends, with this note, we are going to say end here. But of course, we are going to continue with this as the second part of classic American texts. We are going to take up more dramas which are more contemporary in concern. But before we bring the lecture to a close, as I mentioned at the beginning, we are celebrating the Digital India Week, which is from the 1st of July to the 7th of July 2015. And we would just like to update you on some activities and a lot of innovations and initiatives that are being taken at the Consortium for Educational Communication. So friends, first of all, there is e-content courseware for undergraduate subjects as part of the UGC curriculum. So extremely beneficial for the students, very pertinent subjects and topics which they can make use of. And the organization is also developing innovative ways of learning through e-education, and there are also various modes of broadcast through which these lectures or e-content can be seen, and it is also made available through webcast. There is a digital repository of the learning material, and friends, you could get a hold of all these sources. There is a live transmission of educational content, of course, which is happening right now through the Vyas Higher Educational channel, which is webcast at www.cec-ugc.nic.in and also webcast.gov.in/Vyas Live. And so friends, with this information for you, I am sure you would like to make use of it and watch these lectures on YouTube as well after the live transmission, and also make use of the e-content which is available on our website. So friends, with this we bring the lecture to a close, again thanking our subject expert present with us today, Professor Bhim Singh Daya. Thank you so much, sir, for coming and sparing your valuable time. We really appreciate it, and we hope to see you again tomorrow to talk more about these classic American texts. Thank you friends, keep watching, have a wonderful day.